Hello everyone, it's Bella, and today I'm going to be filming my much requested bookshelf tour. You guys have been asking me to do this for ages now, so I'm finally going to be filming this for you guys. I just recently redecorated my bookshelf, so now I'm finally ready to share it with you. So in this bookshelf tour, I'm going to be showing you two of the bookshelves that I have. The first bookshelf that I'm going to be showing you is the one that's in my room, and it has all of my favorite books, and it also has my classics collection. And the other bookshelf that I'm going to be showing you of mine is in my reading nook, where I do most of my reading, and that bookshelf holds most of my young adult books and books from my childhood. To begin, we are going to start off with the bookshelf that is in my room and is right next to my desk. So I'm going to start with showing you what is up here, and the first thing is I have this shadow box with all of my letter writing supplies. I have some wax seals and stamps, and then in front of that I have my wand, and beside my letter writing supplies I have my Hogwarts acceptance letter, which I got from my school library when I was in middle school. And moving on, we have this really beautiful gladiator helmet that my friend Abby got for me when she was in Greece. And then we have this beautiful globe that I love looking at. It is such a perfect decoration for my room. And then here we have some colored pencils. Here's a photo of me and my friends. And here is a fairy light tree, and I will link that in the description. So on the top shelf of my bookshelf, we have my dark academia shelf. I just redecorated this recently and I'm so happy with how it turned out. So on the far left here we have this book called The Greek Myths, and I found that this book is a really great comprehensive guide to Greek mythology, and I love having it in my collection. And next to that we have Circe by Madeline Miller, which I am actually currently reading right now, and I love it so much. Madeline Miller is actually one of my favorite writers ever, so I would definitely recommend you read her work. And next to that we have Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. Again, Leigh Bardugo is one of my favorite authors and I love everything she writes. And next to that we have The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which is January's book for the book club that I'm in. And next to that we have this book that I got from the thrift store, and it is The Complete Works of William Shakespeare. And next to that we have one of my antique books that I wanted to show you. This is a book of Longfellow's poems, and this book was actually passed down to me from my grandmother, and it really does mean a lot to me. And here's what the cover of the book looks like. It is so stunning. And here's a newspaper clipping of Longfellow. And here's some writing of my grandmother. And you can tell it's an old book when it has one of these like little wax paper things on it. And here's the year of the printings. So as you can see, this book is very old. So I'm going to date this book back to the latest date, which is 1891. So this book is over 100 years old, and it is from the Victorian era. It is such a prized possession of mine, and I just love having this book on my shelf so much. Next to that is The Complete Tales and Poems of Edgar Allan Poe. I love Edgar Allan Poe. I think all of his poems and stories are magnificent, and I always love reading them around the autumn time. And next to that we have Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I absolutely adore this book, and I talked about it in my last video, which is my top 10 books of 2020. And it is just absolutely wonderful. I would highly recommend that one. And next to that we have The Odyssey by Homer, and translated by Emily Wilson. I think this cover is also so beautiful. I cannot wait to read this translation, since I have read The Odyssey before back in high school. And then we have the poetry of Robert Frost. And next to that we have another poetry book, which is The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. I absolutely adore The Prophet, and if you love poetry, I would highly recommend reading this one. And next to that, of course, we have the staple of every dark academics bookshelf, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. As everyone knows, this book is amazing. I have read it several times, and it is absolutely one of my favorite novels of all time. I'm actually planning on rereading this book again for a readathon coming soon, so look forward to that. And next to The Secret History, we have another antique book of mine, which is a collection of Byron's poems. This book is very old, and here's my book of Byron's poetry. The cover is just stunning, as you can see. Pages are gilded, which I think is just so beautiful. And opening up this book, it is very delicate. Here we have some artwork, and again it has that tissue paper there. And so here's the date of the book. This book is from 1886, which again is from the Victorian era. This book is so stunning, and I am so happy to have it in my collection. This book has been passed down through my family for years and years, and I am so grateful to have this edition. And next we have a Penguin Classics edition of The Prince by Machiavelli. I was so excited to receive this from one of my best friends in the world, Kate, for Christmas. So if you're watching this, Kate, I am so excited to read this, and thank you so much for giving me this book. And next to that, we have another Penguin Classics edition of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I actually have to read this book for my literature course in the upcoming semester, so I'm so excited to read this one. Then we have If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. I just got this book recently because so many people have been recommending it to me, so I will absolutely be reading this soon. And now we have gotten to my favorite part of my bookshelf, which is my Oscar Wilde collection. If you know me, or if you have watched my channel, you know how much I absolutely adore Oscar Wilde and his work. He is my absolute favorite writer, and I just adore him in every single way. So the first book that we have in our Oscar Wilde collection is a Penguin Classics edition of The Complete Short Stories by Wilde. I love the short stories of Oscar Wilde, and I would definitely recommend his fairy tales as well if you haven't read them yet. Moving on, we have a Barnes & Noble Classics edition of The Importance of Being Earnest and other plays. I actually just recently read Salome, which is an incredible play depicting the Bible story about Salome, and I really enjoyed that one. So next we have the uncensored edition of The Picture of Dorian Gray. I already talked about how much I love this book in my last video, so if you would like to hear more of my thoughts on Dorian Gray, I will link that video above. But I will say that Dorian Gray is my favorite book of all time, and I think that everyone should read it. It is just absolutely brilliant. And then next to that we have the man himself, Oscar Wilde. And this is a complete works of Oscar Wilde. This book basically contains everything he has ever written, and it is a very great book for my collection. I got this for Christmas, and I had to order it from Waterstones since Barnes & Noble didn't actually have it. And then next we have this absolutely stunning edition of The Happy Prince and Other Stories. I got this book for Christmas as well. And then on the end of the bookshelf we have this marble owl bookend, and I think this is very on brand for me, as the owl is the symbol of Athena. Moving on to my second shelf, we have this beautiful edition of Les Mis by Victor Hugo. Then we have The Last Days of Night by Graham Moore. I'm really excited to read this book this year. And then next we have my absolute favorite young adult series of all time, which is the Six of Crows series. These books, along with Shadow and Bone, which we will get to eventually, are being made into a Netflix show, and I am just absolutely so excited for it. Just look how beautiful this cover is. It is just stunning. And the pages are sprayed, as you can see. I just love these books so much, and I would highly recommend you read these. And then next we have The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. Then we have Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, which is an amazing TV show, by the way, so I would highly recommend that. It's on Amazon Prime. Then we have The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. And next we have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I've not read this yet, but I'm very much looking forward to it. I got it for Christmas. And then next we have the Bear and the Nightingale series, which I absolutely love these covers. I think they're so beautiful. And then we have Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. And next to that, we have another book out of my antique book collection. This is a poetry anthology called Poems That Touch the Heart, and it was printed in 1942. Next we have this copy of Little Women, which was gifted to me by my grandmother, and it is just one of my most priceless books in my collection. Next we have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. You may know this already because I talked about it in my last video, but this is one of my favorite books of all time. It is so devastatingly beautiful, and I would recommend it to anyone. And the reason why this book is not on my top shelf of favorites is just because the color scheme here doesn't really go with the other books on my Dark Academia shelf, so it is sitting right here for now. Next we have 1984 by George Orwell. Then we have A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Then we have this beautiful edition of King Lear by Shakespeare. I got this at the thrift store actually. I should move this. Then we have two No Fear Shakespeare of Romeo and Juliet and Julius Caesar. And here we have A Midsummer Night's Dream by Shakespeare. And all of these Shakespeare editions, actually the one on my Dark Academia shelf too, I got all of these from the thrift store. And next to that we have A People's History of the United States. Next to that, we have Bernie Sanders' Guide to Political Revolution. This was a gift to me from my Aunt Jen for Christmas, so thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And then we have Becoming by Michelle Obama. This book is so special to me since my mom actually read it first, and she wrote some really beautiful notes to me in that book, so I will keep that forever. And then this last shelf here is where I keep my Harry Potter books. I'm just gonna say this now, I hate J.K. Rowling. I just genuinely don't know what to do with them, and they actually have a lot of notes scribbled in them from over the years. So I think I'm just gonna keep them here and out of sight, out of mind, because I really can't stand the bigotry that's in Harry Potter, and the blatant transphobia from J.K. Rowling is absolutely unacceptable. So I'm just gonna leave that at that, because it's just here because I don't know what to do with them, basically. And now we are at my reading nook. This chair is very comfy. I love reading here. And I have this bookshelf here with all of my YA books and books from my childhood. So I'm going to show you that now. So to start off up here, I have some coffee table books. I have Percy Jackson, Greek Gods, this book about Audrey Hepburn. I have this book called Mission Moon, which as you can see is partially authored by Brian May, who is the guitarist for Queen. And then we have this Space Atlas book. And I also have this really cool geode, this sign, this beautiful Ghibli cup that my friend Abby got me for my birthday. And I don't know why this is here. I forgot to take that down a long time ago. So to begin, on the top shelf we have the entire Caraval series, which is a great YA fantasy. Next we have Gilded Wolves. Then we have the first two books of the Ember and the Ashes series. Then we have Red Queen, this book called Shadow of the Fox. Then we have Scythe by Neil Shusterman. I actually had this book signed by Neil Shusterman in person, and that was such an incredible experience. I really loved meeting him. And I would also highly recommend this book as well. It is such a good YA book. Next we have the Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater, Four Dead Queens, this which we're not going to talk about. Then we have The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien, The Hazelwood by Melissa Albert, The Sleepy Hollow, This Savage Song, this book called Navigate Your Stars, and then The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Now moving on to the second shelf, first we have Carry On and Wayward Son by Rainbow Rowell. These books are very silly. I liked them, but I didn't love them. Next we have the Heartstopper books by Alice Oseman. The Heartstopper books are my favorite romance of all time. I love them. I just love the main characters, Nick and Charlie. This story just makes my heart melt into a puddle every time I read it. I just absolutely adore these books to the moon and back, and I could not recommend them enough. And also not to mention that the art is just so beautiful. Alice Oseman is an incredible artist, and her storytelling through this comic is just superb. Next we have Hey Kiddo by Jared Krasaska. This is a graphic memoir, and I was actually able to meet this author as well. He is so cool. I love his work. He is an amazing artist and author and such a genuinely kind and amazing person. I loved Hey Kiddo, and I would definitely recommend that you read it as well. Then we have The Backyard Guide to the Night Sky, Gathering Blue by Lois Lowry, Jacoby, Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. It's kind of a funny story. I Am Malala. I love this book so much. It is just absolutely brilliant. I need to put this with my other nonfiction books. I'm going to need to do that. Then we have The Gentleman's Guide to Getting Lucky, The Hate You Give. Then we have The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. Then we have Stamped by Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi. This book is incredible, and it is such an important book for all young adult readers to pick up. This book does such an incredible job at teaching young people about anti-racism, and I would definitely recommend this for furthering your anti-racism education in 2021. Next we have Hush Hush, which I've actually never read. Then we have The Maze Runner, Codename Verity, Turtles All the Way Down, Good Morning, Good Night, which is such a fun book. Then we have a Greta Thunberg book, and then another comic by Jared Krasaska. Moving on to the third shelf, we have some classic books from my childhood. We have The Invention of Hugo Cabret, which I absolutely adore this book. I love the movie as well. Then we have the first couple books of A Series of Unfortunate Events. Then we have these old copies of Winnie the Pooh. And here are the first two books of the Aragon series. This series is so good, but as my friend Kate loves to point out, so many elements of this book were stolen from other fantasy novels, but nevertheless, it is still a great series. Then here we have 2 of the Heroes of Olympus books by Rick Riordan. Then we have Sophie Quire and the Last Story Guard by Jonathan Auxier. This is actually the very best middle grade book that I've ever read. So if you are looking for a good middle grade novel, this one is incredible. I love it so much. And even though it is a middle grade book, I enjoyed it so much. It is such a captivating and beautiful story. And then we have The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I actually stole this book from one of my middle school teachers, so sorry about that. And then we have this bookend of Abraham Lincoln. I don't know why I have this, but it's there. And on the last shelf here, I'm not going to show you everything on this shelf because I have some of my school yearbooks down here, but here I have some academic books. I have a thesaurus, which I never use. I have a science book, this dictionary that my school gave me in like 3rd grade. Then I have this very old dictionary. Then we have Alice in Wonderland, The Wizard of Oz. We have The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys, which is such a good comic. I love it. And it has an entire album of music to go along with it. So cool. Then we have The Wind in the Willows. And that is everything I'm going to be showing you for this shelf. I hope you enjoyed seeing my bookshelf tour and all of the books that I have. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I would absolutely love to have you here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.